Hello and welcome back to day 10 of All About That Place. Hopefully by now you've got to know myself, Natalie, Liz and Joe, but if not, you can hop right back to day 1 and catch up quick. There's still a little bit of time. Today, our theme for today is about bringing it all together. So you've done all this fantastic research. You've really delved into the history of your place and you found out all these amazing things. Now, what are you going to do with all these things that you find? Now, unfortunately, I think all too often we get so kind of involved in the research process and recording our research on our own, computer or notebooks or whatever, that we actually forget about this step of sharing our findings. And you don't have to share when you've finished researching, because let's face it, I don't think anyone ever finishes researching. There's always something else to find. So actually, starting to think about how you're going to share things, whether that's via writing or via other ways of sharing, starting to think about that when you're still in the depths of research is really worthwhile. So I am going to share my screen. Whilst I do that, Liz, how do you share information about your place? Because I know you've got 2 place studies.
I have. Well, I've actually got 3. One is a village, one is a street, and the other one is Temple Lodge Home for Inebriate Women. So I think for me, what's key is telling the stories of the people that lived there. There are 3 kind of main aspects of a one place study for me personally, and the studies I'm doing. Telling the stories, I think, is the most interesting and most important. Collecting data, the census info, birth, marriage and death information, and also reconstructing the trees, which ties in a little bit with the storytelling. But I think for me, those are the most important aspects of a one place study. And in sharing the information you've got, you also encourage other people to share their knowledge with you, which it enriches both parties. So I think certainly telling the stories of the people in your place is a really valuable thing to do, and it's actually a great way of bringing everything together. So I think for me personally, I've chosen to go for a website. I've got 2 websites that my personal choice was wordpress.org. I've also set up a free wordpress.com website for my street study. It's something that can easily be found. I think the first thing we do if we want to find out about a place is Google it. And if you've got a website, you're part way there. It doesn't have to be anything flashy or special, but for me, that's the way I feel for my studies is the best way to share my stories. But I do need to blog more often.
Don't we all? Yeah, there are lots of different ways of sharing. I mean, obviously my favorite is to write, but you could be creating videos, you could be sharing an image and then explaining or talking about that image to get you started. There's websites, like specific blogging sites, but there's also social media, Instagram and Facebook, where you can write kind of longer form elements. I know, Joe, you use Substack. Is it Substack? Am I saying that right? Yeah. Okay. So within the workbook, we've tried to get you thinking about different ways or different things that you can write about by dividing your stories ideas into kind of sections. So you could be writing, like Liz said, about an individual, about the people, the inhabitants. You could also be writing about a building, a particular history of a building or the inhabitants of that building. You could be doing a comparison, so you could be comparing the life of somebody in the past to somebody now, or a building in the past to now, or a feature or a landmark, anything really. And the other way I think of approaching this is to think about, if you could only tell somebody 2 or 3 things about your place, what is it that you'd really want them to know? What are the things that you think it's essential for people to understand and appreciate about your place? What's things that makes it special? And I think quite often we get really passionate about places in the past, and try and think about why you're passionate about it is a good way to help you get started to write. So this is your section here to put in that information. And then, just as we've been talking about, there's also where you actually share this information. So we talked a little bit about the format, the how just now, but also who do you want to share it with? Do you want to share everything completely publicly? Do you want to just share it within your own village? Do you want to just share it with your family? Sometimes we want to share it with people that we trust in order to get our confidence up that, that things are written in a way that we're happy to share. Not everybody comes at writing or sharing with the masses of confidence, and sometimes it can help to share it with a smaller number to get your confidence up to then go share it with the world. So this section here is about thinking about that, and one of the boxes that I put in is about feedback, whether you want feedback. So if you are sharing something on a site, you might decide to turn comments on or off. You might feel like you're not ready for feedback, that you're feeling a bit sensitive about it. You want to get your confidence up first. And I just wanted to reassure people that's completely acceptable. But also you might actually really, really want to encourage people to give you feedback and to perhaps join in, perhaps do some collaborative writing. So thinking about that will also help you think about where to share your information. Again, today there'll be lots of talks to help you to fill out these 2 sections. And after doing this, that will bring you to the end of the All About Place tasks, with the exception of the competition, which will be listed further down in the workbook, and which we will be doing a special announcement video on soon. So watch this space.